colorless TV. Says she watches too much, it's just not healthy. All my children in the daytime, Dallas at night. Can't even see the game or the Sugar Ray fight. The bill collectors, they ring my phone and scare my wife when I'm not home. Got a bum education,
Babz,
digits and
Rawls-Ivy
fame, can't take
from
the
New
train
Haven,
to the job.
Connecticut.
There's a strike at
And
the
you're
station.
listening
Me
to
on King Kong, standing on my back, can't stop and turn around.
103.5 FM, streaming live at
brain. Sometimes I think I'm on this, and I swear I might hijack a plane. Don't push me, cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep.
Welcome back to the second hour of LoveBabz, LoveTalk on 103.5 WNHH. Of course, we're live streaming on the New Haven Independent and Facebook and YouTube and all the places where you get your live streaming stuff from. Happy 100th birthday to Beulah Heights. That is so, founded in 1923. I guess it is 100 years. Shoot. Beulah Heights was a part of my childhood because I grew up in Ebenezer Chapel when they were on Columbus Avenue. And then they moved, I guess, to Dwight or wherever they moved to. And so we would always have opportunities to spend time with the folks at Beulah Heights. So I'm up on the New Haven Independent site. And Alan Thorne, who I've known since I was a child, I didn't know he became a pastor. He married into the Beulah Heights church family and became an assistant pastor under Harold Brooks, under Bishop Brooks, and now heads a Sister Pentecostal church in Norwalk, Grace, Mercy, and Peace Ministries. I remember Al. He climbed up through the corporate ranks, and I didn't know he went into ministry. That Pentecostal stuff, though, can't do it. But happy 100 years. Happy 100 years. That is something. That's a rich legacy and a rich history, honestly. So Beulah Heights, high five. And they do good work. I've had them on the show a couple of times. Some of the stuff that they've been doing, reaching out to young people, the way they feed people, the way they develop that neighborhood over there on Dixwell. So yeah. So high five, Dixwell Church. So I'll make sure I pull that for the inner city. That's good to know. That is such good news to know. High five. So, and high five to West Haven for getting some kind of arts thing going on. Corralling a place to have art. That's pretty good. So they got a space so that they can run Arts West and Umbrella Impact. So they're nonprofits. So that's cool. I'm very happy about that. So they've got a little space, 425 square foot, 2-room office space at 377 Main Street in West Haven. And they are helmed by Eleanor Slamba and Nazira Clayton. High five. See, it takes women to get stuff done. Let me tell you something. It takes women. So they announced this space on Make Music Day this year, and they cut the ribbon behind the building on Tuesday afternoon. So the outgoing Mayor Nancy Rossi, as well as several elected West Haven city officials and close to 2,000 artists attended. You know what? Let me tell you something. When you can get an arts program, arts commitment, arts culture, arts anything in your community, that makes your city livable. It becomes an economic driver. It becomes a place where people want to be, a destination. So high five for them for pulling this off. And let me tell you something. We got you at the Arts Council. We'll provide all kinds of support. Let us know what you need. because that's such a good thing. Such a good thing. So I'm pleased. So there's some art in West Haven, y'all. There's some show enough art in West Haven. High five. So yeah, see, I see Nelson. So they got some arts there. So okay, but do they fall into the Milford Arts Council? Because we're not gonna steal them. But we will lend support if we need it. The Greater New Haven Arts Council. I know Milford's got an arts council. Go ahead, Mac. And so Raheem Nelson works for the Milford Arts Council. He's the marketing director. High five. Now that I did not know. I did not know that. So now I know. So yay, this is good. So I'm glad that now West Haven has a place for artists to be central and seen and heard. And then they could pull together. So that's good. I have to make sure I shout them out at our meeting, because that's good news. And it's at the arts paper. It's up on the arts paper. Lucy wrote this piece on the 20th, 2 days ago. So it's up on the Arts Council Greater New Haven, the arts paper. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a good idea. And I've been listening to people talk about how good an idea that is. So, and if you have a chance, make sure you check out the independent review crew. I mean, they are putting out some good stuff. I mean, every time I read something, I feel like I just want to go right there and see it. I want to go right there and see it. I do. I want to go. I want to go see it. So yeah. So make sure you read some of that. I'm telling you, art is, if you don't have art, if you don't have any kind of art exploration, art exhibitions, art expression in your places where you live, get some and ask people to get together and help you do that, really, because art can be a driving economic force. It can bring people together in ways that other things polarize. Now, I'm not saying all art is friendly and loving and gentle and kind, no, but all art is provocative and thought-provoking, and that's what you want art to be. And art does not ask you to like it or love it. Art asks you, think about this. That's the overarching question that art asks. It doesn't ask you to love me. It doesn't ask you to hate me. It doesn't ask you to do anything other than think about this. Walk with it. What is troubling? What is underneath? What does it bring up for you? How does this make you feel? That's what art should be. And then after you do all that, right, then you could have, the very sort of, you could have deep questions, life-affirming questions, life-affirming conversations about, is this art or whatever. Or you could have very esoteric kinds of conversations about it. But one thing I do know is that art is ask the question. And the question is unique to all of us. So when you see a piece of art, particularly art that you hate or you don't understand, or you think you hate, because you can't wrap your brain around it, maybe that just means someone has to lay it out for you to see it a little differently, like Jacob Perdón did for me when I said I saw slave play in New York. I absolutely hated it. Like, I hated it. Now, I still hate it. But because he's an educator, he pointed out some things that I would have missed had I not spoken to him about it. And I think that's the joy of having artists around us and in our midst, because they can give you a perspective on something that you would not have even ventured into. That's why I love being around artists. That's why I hang around artists. That's why I support artists, because they make you think about the world outside of your own zone. They just make you think out of your own box. And if it wasn't for Jacob Perdón, I would have just probably went to my grave hating slave play. I mean, I am going to go to my grave hating slave play, but I have a better understanding and awareness of what it is. You know, I don't like it. I still don't like it, but I've got some awareness and some intelligence about it, and I could go, oh, okay. I still hate it, but it's a different. It's a little bit of a turn. It's a little bit of a turn, you know. And I'm never going to say I don't think people should see this. And I know art is like that. Like people can make stuff and it could drive us mad and be like, oh, this is not for the world consumption. We cannot show this. This is, you know, and we say we don't want things to be shown because we don't want people influenced or harmed, right? I think that's the thinking, right? When we ban stuff, like these fools run around banning books in this day and age, like they Nazis. like that's the only thing I could think of. Nazis. Like Nazis had whole burning parties and stuff. Like these Republican crazy people burning books. Now they're not actually burning books. What they're doing is they're burning boxes because they don't want to buy the books to actually burn the books. Ain't that something? You committed to burning books, but you ain't really burning books. Because you're not going to go steal. Are you going to go steal books? What are you going to do? You're not going to go steal books. So, because that's a crime. So, and you're not going to spend your money buying books, because let me tell you something. If you buy the book, the publisher and the author of the book was like, well, my job here is done. You bought the book. Whether you read it or not, that's on you. So they're not going to do that. So these fools have taken to just burning cardboard boxes, letting cardboard boxes stand in for books. They can't even be good Nazis. They can't even be halfway decent, ferocious, mean-spirited Nazis. Always shortcuts with these people. Always shortcuts. Anyway, gosh, I'm telling you, that is just the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my whole life. And I've seen a lot of ridiculous things, let me tell you, lots. So anyway, I say all that to say, when you ban things, you just, you know, your level of ignorance has taken over. And I don't believe in not letting kids read whatever they want to read. My kids read everything. Now, there were some books that I thought weren't age appropriate for the moment, but I always put it away. I put it up on the shelf. I was like, listen, when you get to this place in your capacity, you know, if you grow up a little bit more, then you could read this book. Because some books require adult conversation if somebody is, if a child is reading it. So I never said books were off limits. I just said, okay, read some of this to get up to this point, then you could read that, right? And that simply just means you've not had enough world experience to get to this point in this to this book. But when you get to this place, you are here, take it, read it, and we'll talk about it. And my kids will tell you that's how I talk to them about books. There was no books off limits. Although I will say this, I was a little bit of an asshole about comic books, but I have since changed my tune because, and I changed it then. I changed it rather quickly because I was like, I wanted them to be reading hardcore books, but I felt like they naturally read, my son Gregory naturally read comic books and then graphic novels and then Goosebumps and then all that other kind of stuff. So he got there. You know, I just wanted him to be a little faster, but that's just mommy mess. That's not anything about him. You know, I didn't want him to be stuck in comic book world, but he wasn't. He read other things, you know, so that's just the way of the world. So yeah, so I never banned books. And I had friends who wouldn't let their kids read Harry Potter books. I didn't understand that mess. I was like, because you think witchcraft is a thing? I mean, witchcraft is a thing, but I mean, we have urban ass black ass kids. They not sitting on the street corners going, let me cast some spells. They're not getting in groups talking about I mean, who among us hadn't, had a Ouija board, got in a room and turned off all the lights and put our hands on the Ouija board and swear some spirits was moving it? We all have done that. How many of us has not done some love potion? Because there's somebody, an object of your desire, and somebody got hold of some old, if you write their name on a piece of paper and you put a piece of your hair in there, and if you get a piece of their hair or something that belonged to them and you tie it all up and you bury it, that true love would blossom. I've done that. I need to go back and dig that mess up and be like, "Ooh, Lord, don't make this come true." I'm just saying. So my kids read all the Harry Potter books, and we read them in tandem every summer because they would come out. They would come out like clockwork. You could depend on a Harry Potter book or two to come out. And so for like a decade, they were coming out, and we just would read them. And they were substantial, so it would take the whole summer to read one. And so we would buy one Harry Potter book, and we would sit in a circle in the living room, and we would spend an hour reading Harry Potter. And then when the movie started coming out, they had already had a point of reference for it. So I never said don't read anything. I think there are some books that I'm not going to give a 6-year-old a Dean Koontz book and like have at it. No. I can't even read a Dean Koontz book. That mess scared the crap. I remember I read it in college. I was at my uncle's house in Columbia, South Carolina, my Uncle Lonnie's house. I was there on break, Thanksgiving break. And I had picked up the Dean Koontz book from the library because I was reading all these I was reading his books, him and the other little mystery guy, Stephen King. I was reading these books and I was like, oh, scaring myself half to death. Well, I read one Dean Koontz book too many. And and it was a rainy, thunderous night, and the lightning and the scared me half to death. I threw that book down. I was like, you know what? I'm done with this kind of stuff on my brain. I don't know why I was reading this. I was devouring these books. And then I was like, and then that one book, it was like that one last book. I can't tell you what it was. I mean, I can tell you what it is. I just don't want to conjure it up. And it just scared me so badly. And I thought, oh, no. And so I left it alone. So books are not off limits. I don't believe any book should be off limit. I mean, I remember when I read Mein Kampf when I was a teenager. My Jewish English teacher gave it to me. And she was like, this is the evil that men do. And I did not understand what she meant. I did not understand it. And I read that book, and I tore out the pages. When I finished it, I tore out the pages and I threw that book away because I thought I knew enough to know this is a level of crazy that I can't. I felt the same way about Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. I felt the same way about that mess too. I was like, okay, now this is crap. But I would never say people shouldn't read it. Because I don't think you can fight what you don't know. And you have to be able to fight what you don't know. You have to be able to fight knowing. You have to fight with some intelligence about what this is. So those are the two books in my life that I've ever destroyed and gotten rid of. Swear to God. So I don't really like to talk about that because I don't believe in the destruction of books. But for my own, it was more of, this is how I have to purge this mess out of my system. And I got the book from my teacher, my Jewish teacher, who thought, she said, this is the evil that men do. I didn't understand that. And then we kind of talked about it. I don't remember how we talked about it, but Miss Procock I just loved her so much because she just saw me. She saw me as smart, and she just saw me as smart and articulate. And I normally don't like people to say I'm articulate, but she knew I had a voice. She saw it, and she just stoked it. She stoked it in very gentle kinds of ways. You get these good ass teachers who could see in a kid what a kid can't see in them. And sometimes their family and friends can't see what's in them. But she saw me. She knew I was a writer. She knew I had a wonderful sounding voice and that this voice could take command. So she knew that. And she thought I had a fine mind for a kid. She thought I had a fine mind. And so she stoked it. You know, I just was like, I was just enamored of her. And she was like a little petite woman, white gray hair with ground glasses, and it was like a mushroom haircut kind of vibe. But she was smart as, I mean, I still think about, I couldn't tell you who the hell else was my teachers in high school. I freaking couldn't tell you. I can't tell you. I certainly can't tell you. I don't know who taught what. I don't know who taught math. I don't know nothing. But I can tell you who taught literature, English lit. Barbara Prokop taught English lit at Eli Whitney School when I was there from 1979 to 1981. Now I'm sure I'm 60 years old. So and she was old. And she might not have been old, but I'm sure she's passed on now because I'm 60. And she had a head full of gray hair back in the day. So I know Miss Prokop is not around. I should do a search and see. But I she meant everything to me, and she got me on this path. Her and my father, the psychopath abuser that he was. But before those moments, he was an ardent reader, and he gave me Man, Child, and the Promised Land, and he would read Iceberg Slim. He gave me Iceberg Slim books. I swear to God, I must have been like 12. I'm reading Iceberg Slim. I'm reading Soul on Ice. I'm reading Message to a Black Man by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I'm reading all this stuff. I'm not kidding you. I'm like 11, 12 years old. And my father's like, here, read this. Here, read this. I mean, my father was a brilliant guy. He was stupid and crazy and a sociopath and a molester and abuser and a child trafficker. But beyond that, he was brilliant. And we had a love of books and Westerns because my father would watch Westerns every Saturday or sometimes late at night whenever there's a Western on. So he liked Western and he liked books. And my father was an avid reader. He always had books around him. He was always reading books. So I grew up reading because I loved my father and I wanted to make him proud of me. And so I read books like he read books. So whenever he finished the book, I would just pick it up and read it. So I was reading all kinds of stuff. Oh my God. I think about that all the time. Like, my father's like, here, I read this. I was like, okay, Dad. And I would get to reading it. I was like, I didn't understand none of this mess. And some of these books was way, 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 way above me, way out of my. Some of these books, I read these books and I was like, I have gone back and read some of these books and I was like, oh, shoot, my father let me read this crazy stuff. I've since gone back and read Man, Child, and the Promised Land, Soul on Ice, because I had to read Soul on Ice when I was in college. So I remember, and then I realized this machismo tome, it was just so, oh God. When I was a kid, I didn't know nothing about men, women dynamics or patriarchy or any of that foolishness. And Soul on Ice is just patriarchal craziness, but all right. All right. But I remember reading it back, reading it again. I remember telling my teacher in college, I read this when I was like 10. And I think right then and there, she's like, yeah. I see. I see how this is problematic. so so yeah, no, I didn't do that to my kids. I didn't just throw books at them like that. But there's always books in our house, and their father was an avid reader. Lawrence is an avid reader too. But you know, Lawrence is not a novel reader. He is straight nonfiction. I'm gonna read about the boxcar revolution. I'm gonna read about Che Guevara. I'm gonna read about you know, he is that guy. And he liked a lot of conspiracy kind of stuff too. So he read a lot of conspiracy. But the kids grew up seeing us, both of us, reading lots and lots and lots and lots of books. And so we instilled that in them, you know. And I know Brianna, out of all of the children, Brianna is the most one that reads the most. She reads a lot. Margot is like second. You know, she falls in and out of love with books, you know, but she ought to read more because she's brilliant. And Brianna, I need Brianna to read more Black stuff. I just said it. So I'm gonna gift her some books because she needs to read some more Black stuff. Like, girl, read some Black stuff. And that'll help you, you know, sort your brain a little bit. You know, I think that's what I'm doing. I'm gonna gift her. I'm gonna pull together some books and get her brain right. Like, girl, you know, you got to read some books that put something in your mind. So I'm gonna help her with that. She ain't gonna see us coming. I'm like, here, just pick this up, read it, see what you think. What do you think? Think about this, you know. And that's what you have to do with kids. And don't accept anyone to read. You know, because I used to build it in. I was like, listen, you want to watch TV? This is how much time you got to read. For every hour of television, you got to watch an hour. You got to read an hour and a half of books or something like that. And we had these little counter things so they could keep track of, you know, what they read, when they read, and little charts. I mean, little charts. And they could read, you know, and I didn't care what they read. You could read anything you want, as long as you spend some time reading, you know, and mostly anytime before you go to bed. And when I could control that when they were young, before they went off to high school, it was so ingrained in them that it became a habit, you know. And now I think they'll find their way back to reading in the ways that they were taught to read, you know, because, you know, you're a kid, you rebel. You're like, oh, my stinking parents got me reading. I don't want to read no stinking books. You know, but now they're aging and they're like, oh, a book. Oh, I think I might want to read this. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you might want to. So, and that's just the way it goes. That's just the way it goes. And so, I say all that to say this banning of books is ridiculous. And I'm going back to saying, high five West Haven for creating space for artists. That is the beginning of liberation. And that is the foundation for civilization. That really is. You know, we spend a lot of time anti-gunning, but we got to be pro-booking, pro-books. Because these fools, they just want an empty head and loaded guns. That's what they want to run around with. And I surmise we need to have empty guns and loaded heads, you know. We got to get people reading. Because when you read, you are connecting. Do you know what I mean? When you are reading, you are connecting to whatever the story is and where in the world it is or wherever it's happening, you are connecting. And that's what you want. You want people to get out of this other mentality and bring humanity right there in the pages, you know, whatever it is. And you become one with that book. You know what it is to become one with a book? You cannot put it down. You're reading it. It's so good to you. You're like, oh my God, I care about what this is, the subject matter, whatever it is, fiction, nonfiction alike. Fiction, nonfiction alike. You start to, you like, okay, I'm gonna learn something here. Or, oh, I like this character. Oh, I did not know this. Oh, do you know what I mean? This situation is compelling. that's it. That's it. So I'm an avid book reader. So I gave you a bunch of books to think about for Hispanic Heritage Month by Latin and Hispanic authors, which is a wonderful thing. Lots and lots of books. And if you go to your local bookstore, and I have one in my neighborhood, in my city, Possible Futures, Lauren, will be more than happy to point out authors of Latin and Hispanic, of Hispanic and Latin origin authors. Happy to do that and curate a wonderful reading list for you. And then you can pick and choose books at your leisure to read. And I'm inviting people to pick up books by his Latin and Hispanic authors to read this month. You still got time. You got until October 15th. But don't shut it down there. Keep it going. Keep it going. So I'm going to read you, I'm about to jump out of here, but I wanted to read you a poem by Alice Walker in her book of Taking the Arrow Out of the Heart. Includes complete Spanish translation. I think I'm going to try to do it in Spanish and then I'll do it in English. So, and this is a little short one. De un ser que podrías jamás conocer. Conocer. De un ser que podrías jamás conocer. And this simply means of a being you may never know. Indaba, my children, by Credo Mutwa. Isn't that pretty? That is so pretty. That is so pretty. So pretty. So yeah. So, you know, I don't speak Spanish, but I'm trying to do a little something. You know, I'm trying to do a little something. And I'm on my way out. So finalmente, Martin, después de todos los años secos de lavar tu recuerdo a menudo en silencio, lo sabemos por nuestras lágrimas. Finally, Martin, after all the dry years of bearing your memory, most often in silence, we know it by our tears. So I'm on my way out. No, Harry, it wasn't Chinese. I don't know if that was Spanish. Listen, I don't say my Spanish is perfect. I'm an attempt. We all got to attempt. I'm attempt every day. At one point, I'm gonna get it right. So, adios. Enjoy your weekend.
That's gonna be a problem. That's gonna be a real big problem. That's gonna be a problem.
Next week, let's find some Spanish music, Harry.
My crib, just minding my shit, so the lights in the mirror seatbelt went click. I'm innocent, my paper's legit, but that wasn't gonna stop him from giving me shit. He's walking to my door, tapping on my glass, telling me his reasons for what he called fast. Doesn't matter, got no time to stress. Can somebody be my witness? Frustrated, irritated while I'm sitting in court looking at the jury, feeling no support. My lawyer telling me to take plea. I can see the judge's eyes saying I should agree, but that's gonna be a problem. That's gonna be a real big problem.